would like to call the meeting of the Oconee County Public Library Board of Trustees to order. It is Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Has everybody had a chance to read through the minutes of last meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so the meetings have been approved. Public comment. I think we have Lorelei Swanson with us tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Please. Thank you. So I came here, I think, probably last summer to present the idea of the Community Family Resource Center. So we are very close to launching the Community Family Resource Center, so I'm just here to bring you an update and maybe answer any questions you may have. So this is a partnership between the Carolina Family Engagement Center, who I am employed by, and the South Carolina Department of Ed. This is an initiative supported by Molly Spearman. And we have been funded by the South Carolina Department of Ed to pilot, now it's up to 15, but we have 7 first, but we got additional funding to do about 8 more. But they are community family resource centers. They are designed to be in places that are community spaces, walkable spaces. It's an opportunity for families that may live in digital deserts, may not have access to phones or computers, or may not have be tech savvy. So where everything is really designed to be paper copies that they can take with them. We want it to be resources related to supporting a child's growth and development. We want these materials to kind of be reader family friendly, and we want these resources to be language friendly if they need to be, so available in languages of the residents, where the residents reside. So we're going to launch. We're going to have one at the public library in the lobby. We have a brochure rack that will be in the lobby, and then we have also another smaller brochure rack that will be inside the library on top of the bookshelves where some of the Spanish materials are, Spanish language materials are. We want everything in this resource center to be in both Spanish and English. In some cases, it may be that they're just available in Spanish, but in a lot of cases, it will be both. So we are really focused on meeting the needs of Spanish-speaking families in the community and helping the library just kind of be a welcoming space where they know they can come and get resources they need to support their child's education and learning. So some of these resources will be from the school district, but also some of them will be resources within the community. And it's something that can be constantly updated as we kind of assess the need. Is this meeting the needs of our families? We may need to think about how we will evaluate that, but we do work with the RIM Center, which is a Research and Evaluation and Measurement Center at the University of South Carolina, so we can kind of design anything we need to do to get that information about how it's working in our community. So the launch day is March 29th.
3 to 5?
3 to 5. We will have some red ribbon, and love to have a red ribbon cutting ceremony. Certainly Blair will be there and Nivea will be there, because one thing that your center has been approved for is a laptop computer, which Nivea will be able to use 2 Saturday mornings a month, where she'll be able to help Spanish-speaking families navigate the SDOC website, email their child's teacher, and sign into and monitor Parent Portal, which is directly related to a child's learning and success in school. So we're really trying to let this be very intentional and high impact, and we hope ultimately it will lead to higher achievement in school. So you're certainly invited to attend. I know that Nivea and Blair will be there. We have also invited Councilwoman Melendez to be there, and I think that we're also going to invite Senator Alexander. I don't know if he will be there, but our big main launch is going to be in person in Manning, which is the PD region of the state, but all our other launches on that day will be more local. There'll be a local press release here, and that is going to be sent out, I think, tomorrow to the local press. But we'll also be doing like a live Facebook stream, and we'll be capturing pictures of where this is happening across the state. So,
This is great,
yeah, we're
Lorelei.
hoping, we were gonna set it up tomorrow, like, we can go ahead and set it up, but we're doing an official launch on Tuesday, the 29th. We do have 15 books of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, various,
Diaries
yeah, the different
of
ones.
this.
But we have 10 in English and 5 in Spanish that we'll be giving away during that launch period to the first 15 visitors.
Nice.
And we were gonna set it up tomorrow, but Blair did mention that, like, he is kind of worried about the rain. It's supposed to rain a lot tomorrow morning, so you and I might need to reconnect and see if we can do it on Thursday or Friday. I don't want to ruin any of the materials that we have. We also still have money in the budget, so we have some initial materials, plenty of them to keep it stocked. Nivea and I will kind of be working, maybe some occasionally library staff, but we would just want to keep it updated and neat and orderly. But if we find that there's other materials that we want and we learn that families need, we have more money in the budget to buy those materials. So just as soon as y'all recognize the need, let me know and I can go ahead and place the order.
Great. That's great. So you said Tuesday, 3/29,
March 29th.
March 29th,
3 to 5
3 to 5 at
Wahala.
at the Wahala Library.
Wahala Library.
Yes.
Okay,
All right?
awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Lorelei.
Thank you for partnering with us.
Yes, sounds wonderful. I think that's our only comment from the public.
Yeah, I did not have anything by email.
Okay. All right. Friends report. Do we have that?
I will need to include the sales figures probably in amended minutes.
Okay.
I do not have that here with me, but they have had very active sales. They have their first, or rather had their first Saturday sale in quite a while on this past Saturday, the 19th. Weather was pretty nice. I think they did pretty well. So they have resumed, there'll be a quarterly Saturday sale. I think the next one is in June, September, and I want to say December. And we have the dates of those on our website. The regular sales are also doing very well. They have continued to clean up that area back there in the back or in the basement. They do a nice job of merchandising all that. They've got a lot more streamlined in there. They've actually been able to add more materials because of that. And then even in their workroom where they do the sorting and the pricing and all that sort of thing, they've been much better about keeping up with any backlog that they get. We've seen an increase in donations, of course, because of now that COVID is seeming to wane a bit. We are seeing a lot of people moving about again. We are getting more donations in. We get calls a lot for donations. Can I bring books? That kind of thing. So we are getting in more donations and things, but they're processing real well. They are still working with their third party, Ivan, the guy, the book dealer that they're dealing with. They are still working with him. So there's not a whole lot of backlog of really messed up books that nobody wants, that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff, rather than even having to go in recycling. Some of it is being sold, even if it's not something the friends want, it's being sold through, I think, various places, Amazon and some of these other places. And then finally, it does get recycled if it's just beyond repair or moldy or something like that. So they are continuing to work with him as well and seeing some dividend from that. They get a check. Really, really nice setup that they have at M. Tannery and Sons on Ramcat there in Seneca. So the board, their board, the Friends Board, and also I have sent a letter recently to, and I did it in the name of the board also, I sent a letter to M. Tannery just thanking her for providing that space, because she recently expanded it, allowed them to expand it, update it. It looks really nice. I've only seen pictures. I haven't actually been down there yet, so I really need to go at some point. Maybe one of these days when I do coffee time or something, I'll slip across the street and check out the location that they have there at M. Tannery and Sons. But it's really nice, and they've been doing very well from that. They are also selling now at Mountain Mocha here in town. So they have a space there that they're allowing them to sell books as well. So they've got several different outlets. They are bringing in a pretty nice amount of money each month. I'll get those sales figures to you all through email, whatever, and get them in the amended minutes. And then you can kind of see how well they're doing. But I mean, they've been pretty consistent. They are gonna go ahead and fund the summer reading program again this year. We're working on the amount. They actually have a board meeting 2 days from now, so I'll talk to them about that. They are also funding the adult summer reading, so we will have prizes, and then, I mean, the program will be basically the same as what the young people are doing as far as the events and that kind of thing. Our big events will be over here at the Performing Arts Center again, as we have done the last couple of years. And they will be supporting the summer reading thing again this year, the program again this year. And they will be providing some other funding as well as the normal biannual, every 6 months, funding that they give us half of the book sales, then they do provide additional funding. And we are talking with them also about some special projects, like getting another microfilm reader for the South Carolina room. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that. But they are doing real well and really going crazy with what they have maximized a great deal the stuff that they're able to do and have emerged from COVID very well. The nice thing about having a sale every week now as opposed to just once a month, that gives them more opportunities. But also, weeks when they didn't have a sale was when they usually came and worked. So they mainly planned to work on Thursday and they would all be there together. Because of COVID, they didn't necessarily all want to be in one place, but the sort of side effect of that has been pretty nice because now some of them come every week and some of them come different days of the week, so they're not all there together at once. So they've been working like crazy down there, and it shows. The way they have the basement set up, the way they have the various sale areas set up, and what they're making, it's paid big dividends.
I was just there this past week to their book sale. I've been going for 20 years since I homeschooled, and it is fabulous. You're right. They have knocked it out of the park. It is organized and clean. I don't have to take an antihistamine when I go in. It's really nice. I mean, seriously. It's organized. Everything's labeled. Everybody is just having a great time. It's really nice.
Really upgraded a
Yeah.
great deal in terms of how they've got it all organized, where they've managed to put the different books and things, get everything in one place. At one point in time, I think they had fiction split between 2 different rooms.
It was,
They don't have that
yeah.
anymore. They've really stepped it up down there and really made it something you want to go see.
Nice. All right, so now we'll move on to committee reports. The first one is finance.
That's mine. I met briefly with Blair on March 3rd, and I don't want to steal too much of your thunder. I'm not sure what you're going to be reporting on, so I'll be real brief and let him explain more. But we did talk, the county's already working on the 2022-23 budget, and so we talked about the needs of increasing our hourly amount for our part-time employees, and with that, an increase of about 30,000 in part-time professional staff. Increased funding for gasoline due to the increase in pumps, which is obvious, a slight increase in funding for books, and then an increase in postage were some of the main concerns there. In addition, he mentioned, and I know it was in his written report, that the staff will be getting a one-time only bonus this year for working during COVID, and that should go until sometime in October 2021. And if you followed up with Seneca, they did this already like 4 to 6 weeks ago. And so they got that, and when I inquired even at Seneca, they said yes, that all the municipalities are going to be doing this COVID bonus. So the amount at that time was unknown. Maybe Blair will be able to add on to that. And then some things just from the finance perspective and being new on the board, wanted to know if we have a library foundation for any fundraising that we might want to do. And we do not. It was looked into in the past and would cost a lot of money to set up and operate. So right now we do have the Nettles Fund, and that, think of it as money in your mattress. It does not gain interest. It's just there. And at one point it was 90,000. I don't know if we're below that at this point. I forget.
With the expenditures for the desk in Walhalla and the staff area in Walhalla, we're right around 70 now.
70 now, okay. And that was the main part of that. The only other thing, and it's not finance, but, and I'm not sure how Allison wanted to handle how as an executive committee, we're meeting on the even months. Had she mentioned that at all? So then I would just say in passing that we sort of talked between Liz, Alice, and myself that we'll do a Zoom informal meeting on the even months just to touch base to see what's going on and things we need to be aware of, if there's anything that we need to call a special meeting for, or just to discuss. So that's all of my report. Thank you.
Okay. The next is policy and personnel.
I think outside of what's included in the director's report, there is no further report this month.
Okay. The next, building and grounds. Is that you, Cliff?
I think that's me, nothing to report.
Okay. And the last one's community relations, and that's Nivea and I. And I can report a few things. We are we are thinking about doing a library newsletter, so that's something that we're still in talks about. We do a lot of social media posts and get things out like that. We just thought that maybe in alignment with the written word, do another newsletter again. And then also I'm able to represent through the chamber, the library at chamber events. So I've talked with Crystal there at the chamber to see if I can attend meet and greets or, events where you exchange ideas, if it's open to whoever's a member, and she has said yes. So I'm doing that. So I'm getting out there and just talking about the library and what we have to offer and trying to build some bridges. That's what I have for community relations at this point. All right, so the next is the chairman's report, or the chair report. And this is from Allison. She has update that we have asked Blair to extend an invitation to State Library Director Lisa Aiken to visit the Oconee County Public Library branches and spend time with our staff and board. We are hopeful that she can visit sometime in the next 12 months. Anything to add to that, Blair? Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's good? Okay. All right. So now we have director's report.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep it brief. Just a few things I wanted to note. One, probably the biggest thing I need to mention to you or bring up, and I think most of you are aware of it by now, but Brenda Lee, our bookmobile manager, is retiring this week. Thursday will be her last day. So we'll definitely miss Brenda. She has been bookmobile manager since 2008. Full-time in our system since 1998, and she actually started in working for us part-time in various roles, quit for a moment to raise her daughter, came back again, but she actually started part-time in 1986. So Brenda had been with and serving the library here in Oconee County for a number of years. She will definitely be missed. Her patrons, I know, will miss her. The bookmobile will be in good hands. We've made a decision on that position, and that'll be coming out very soon. But we will miss Brenda a lot, and thank her for all the things that she has done over the years, instrumentally in really being one of the faces of the library, probably along with Darcy Arnold, our youth services librarian, probably because she's outside of our walls, one of the people that people see the most for the library. Makes those weekly or bi-monthly visits to her stops and things, and pretty much, again, one of the faces of the library. So we'll miss Brenda a lot, but we do have that situation already in hand. Also wanted to bring up just briefly concerning building and grounds. Actually, they are going to stripe the parking lot. Now, won't get it sealed and the cracks done and everything like that probably for a while, because that requires an outside bid. But in the meantime, because of the concerns that we've had about getting those lines darkened where people can see them, people not parking all over the place, roads and bridges. I had facilities maintenance on my mind, I apologize. Roads and bridges is scheduled to come, weather permitting, is scheduled to come on Good Friday. We'll be closed to the public, having in-service on that day in our libraries. So Roads and Bridges is gonna come and stripe the parking lot, remark the lines and everything on Good Friday. I also heard from Kyle Reed, who's Director of Roads and Bridges, recently at a groundbreaking for the new fire station that's gonna be there in Bountyland. He and I spoke briefly. We were supposed to meet sometime this week, or last week rather, and I think weather and all just kind of affected it. But at some point in time, he, myself, and the regional person from South Carolina Department of Transportation are supposed to meet about making that Westview one-way, putting angled parking on Westview. So that idea is not dead. He's been talking with DOT, and they're supposed to come out and actually meet with both of us and talk about it. So that is gonna proceed, hopefully, and if it does, then we will be able to leave our entire block there, lot that we have in Walhalla as green space. I do have a meeting on Friday with the Oconee Food Council. I think they're talking about a Victor Garden, whether they want to put it in our space or not, we'll see. Couple other things real quickly. The state library will not be supporting our MiFis that we are currently lending. After losing a couple, I think, they're just not ever being returned and all, we have 16, I think 17 perhaps. Those are unlimited at this moment, and we do have a bunch of them checked out. But because that was on an ARPA grant, I think, American Rescue Plan Act grant, they are not continuing that beyond May of this year. I have been in touch with our procurement department about being able to continue those, but the way the county is set up, they have one pool of unlimited, if you will, for all the county's MiFi devices. That would include things like other departments, but it would also include like our bookmobile MiFi, the other MiFi that we maintain internally for people to use to go out and like sign people up at library cards at events and that kind of thing. And there's only one pool of unlimited. So it may not be possible for us to even set up unless we can somehow set up a separate account. We may not continue with the MiFis because we don't want to have issues with the county account. So unless we're able to set up, and once I know something from the state library about how those, we'll own the devices, but once I hear from them how they're planning on helping libraries across the state, because this is all across South Carolina, once they've told me how they plan to kind of help libraries maybe move these off on their own accounts or whatever, I hopefully will know a little more. There's a chance that we won't be continuing the MiFis here in the county just because we can't, there's no way for us to do it. And do it effectively and be able to afford it. I mean, unlimited, I believe, the last check I asked our procurement director, you're talking $40 a month per line, per unit. And then again, if it draws off the county pool, they're not gonna wanna do that, because obviously we need to keep these MiFis, the ones that we already currently have, usable for county employees and all different county services, so we really can't. Unless we can set up a separate account, that may have to go away. Just so you're aware of that, that is one service that we have been offering. Our Wi-Fi antennas, the access points they're called, are APs, those were replaced recently at all the libraries. Our Wi-Fi service is a lot better than it was before. The equipment they replaced, I think we'd had since 2011, I wanna say. So they have put in this new equipment and all. You still do have to do the little I agree to abide by your rules, and that does hang up some devices. But we haven't seen as many problems with some of the laptops and that kind of stuff that we were able, there was a little glitch that we had for a while, and I think they were able to get that fixed. It's working well on phones and tablets and other devices as well, so that has improved our reception, that has improved. There's not so many dead spots in the library anymore and that kind of thing that we had before. Monica mentioned about the bonus pay for employees. Employees did receive a letter by the 16th, I think, and they based that all on a formula based on the number of hours that you worked during that period between March of 20 and October of 21. So anyway, each employee received a letter with what amount they will get. And of course, that's not public knowledge, but I mean, still, that's we will be receiving that. And I believe that was from the ARPA, what county received an ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Nice.
And that's pretty much all I have.
Blair, could I ask one question? I had a hard time understanding what that maker card is. Can you give me just like a 30-second, like what it does?
Sure, the maker card is, we had a little cart with a lot of colorful bins in it that we had gotten a long time ago to use for makerspace projects. That's been a big thing in libraries for quite a while, just having these hands-on crafts and projects and makerspace things that people could do. And for a while, it just sat unused in our break room for a long time. And so Darcy grabbed onto it and took some really cool things that she had. They end up collecting supplies sometimes for various programs, crafts, that sort of thing. And so she had a lot of good things left over. Why let those just sit in youth services and go to waste? So she loaded up the cart with this stuff and has a weekly program, this Maker Cart program, where she comes up with a craft and the kids can just grab stuff out of the cart and make. I mean, she may have a theme or it may be just different things, but they can make all different kinds of stuff out of this. And it's just a simple program, doesn't require a lot of pre-planning, doesn't require her having to buy new supplies, anything like that. It lets us use up some stuff that we already have and the kids have a ball doing it. And it's not something that she has to spend a whole lot of time planning ahead. It's not like an intricate craft that they have to do because they just take what's on the cart and they can kind of make what they want.
And it's at all the locations?
No, right now,
Is it-
because, I mean, it's a fairly decent-sized cart, so
Okay.
it only happens at the lobby in our Walhalla branch.
Okay.
So she does take and do some craft programs at the other branches and probably does take some of this stuff. But the Maker Cart thing itself is only at Walhalla because that's where the cart is. And it's
Gotcha.
not something we could easily transport except in the bookmobile, and given what diesel's costing right now, I don't know that we want to just use it for a transfer truck.
That's a great idea. That's good. Thank you.
But that is exciting news about the street there on
Yeah.
Mahal.
Yeah, and we were supposed to meet last week, and I know he is up to his,
Oh, I know.
everything, because now that it's getting a little bit warmer, they even hit him when they did the groundbreaking over there. They said, okay, and you know that Roads and Bridges is doing the grading on this, right? He's going, oh, I see how that works. So I know he's been super busy, but I think we can get a meeting set up.
Well, let me know if you'd like for me to be there or
Okay.
anything like that.
Actually, what I'll do is I'll just let you know when that meeting is supposed to happen, and if you're able to come, cool. And then if not, I'll send you an email, just let you know what transpired, how far along are we on the thing. I did also check with our neighbor. There is one resident on Westview that I did check with him and make sure it would be okay with him if we went one way or the other. And the angled spaces will really only be up by our lot portion. They won't be down. We don't want to really take up any space in front of his property, or there's a rental property that actually faces Pine Street, but we don't want to take up any of their spot there and not really take up any spaces that the Friends might use for a weekly sale. So we're anticipating all the angled parking being up there on our side by the lot. But that will make it probably, I would think if they do it the way I'm anticipating, it'll be one way going down Westview.
That's kind of what I was
Like
thinking.
coming from Chestnut down to Pine, I think is the way that we're looking at doing it. And then the angled spaces will be sort of angled with the back end towards Chestnut, and the front end heading in towards the lot. Well, or unless you want to back in, I guess, but anyway.
All right, so now we'll move on to old business. And we have the first order of old business is discussion of grant with the Center for Rural and Primary Health Care. And according to Allison's minutes, I am to defer to you.
I don't have a lot of news on that yet, except for the fact that we did receive the grant. We were awarded the grant for this, the library, we are working right now, the next step for us basically is to recruit our social worker / research associate. Part of what we anticipate and envision this person doing is this sort of case management, direct referral, the main push on this thing, if you will, or the main hook on it, is that this person will be at the library, mostly at Walhalla, but also have various days at the other branches. And they will be able to refer people directly to local health care. The main part of this grant, they funded 5 libraries last year, they funded 4 libraries this year. We're in sort of what they're gonna call a cohort. We're in the second cohort, second year. And what they're trying to do is establish it to where when people have needs, when they are looking for primary health care and that sort of thing, they're not struggling, they're not, okay, go to the emergency room, they're not trying to figure out what to do, but our social worker, if we have somebody at the library that can work with them, one, just to help refer them to primary sources of health care within the county, But then also what we're envisioning is having this person continue to work with these people, maybe establish a relationship, develop cases to where, okay, then the person's healthcare needs are solved, but are they food insecure? Are they having, housing issues? Are they having other issues that we might be able to direct them to? And because of that, the other component of this is that the person will sort of serve to bring a bunch of information together, kind of make the library a clearinghouse for a lot of the community agencies. We know there's a lot of stuff that's happening in Oconee County that's great, but some of the agencies themselves don't know what the other agencies are doing. And then also, the hope in that is that they will make it to where we have a pretty nice database of things that people can rely on the library. And while we do have some great community partnerships now, part of their role will also be to develop new community partnerships for the library so that we are within, we are in partnerships with as many community agencies as possible with, because of the way this is set up, a focus on primary health care. But by extension, we all know that health and well-being is, if we treat it more holistically, that deals with food insecurity, homelessness, education issues, job issues, employment security, that kind of thing. So before it's over with, we're not stepping too far out of our lane, but these are questions, one of the main reasons why we applied for this thing, these are questions that come to the library every day. We have people in the community that have needs, and they do still come to the library every day. Had, in fact, this very week, Monday, Tuesday, anyway, we had a gentleman who was stuck. He was stuck in Walhalla, needed a ride to Seneca. He had nowhere to go, nobody to turn to, whatever. So we were able to find him a number and some help, but we'd like to be able to go a step further. Have that person there on staff full-time. This will be a full-time position, social worker, and that they can work primarily from the healthcare angle, but also be able to help with some of those other social issues that we know are gonna come up anyway. They're coming to the library anyway. So this grant hopefully will enable us to go the next step. The grant period runs from 1 March, so we're already in it, but as soon as we found out we won the grant, we are working on a job description now. Hopefully have the job posted by next week with the hope of getting somebody at least by mid to maybe late April. It may be more like late April before we can actually get the person in place. And then get them up to speed, get them trained. They will be able to consult with Union County's social worker because they were in the first cohort, so they've already done this. And part of this also is that the Center for Rural and Public Health Care will use us also as a model to then get other libraries down the road maybe to apply and get involved in this too. There were 3 other counties besides us that got awarded in this cycle. It was Abbeville, Marlboro, and Calhoun County also. Abbeville is doing telehealth. Calhoun and Marlboro are doing kind of something similar to what we're doing, some form of having an actual social worker and having people that can assist either one-on-one or partner with the community.
What was the award amount for us?
I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but if you're counting salary and fringe for a full-time social worker, supplies, travel, all that kind of thing, I want to say it was in the neighborhood of about $73,000. I can get you the exact figure, I just don't have it in front of me at the moment. But it was around the neighborhood, what we applied for was around $73,000.
And that comes up every year. Do we need to do that?
It is, the grant, this grant period will end at the end of May next year,
Okay.
23. And unfortunately, they've already let me know because of how this model is set up, that they want to get new libraries and do this more. The way the model is set up, we will not get funding from them next year. We can seek other sources of funding. We can go for other grants. When I talked with the people at Clemson Rural Health, they indicated that they might be able to help us with that. Hopefully, if we show enough value for the thing, it's possible that I could even go to the county and ask for a position. But obviously, they have a lot of other things that they've got to get filled. They need new deputies, they need other things, so I can't rely on that. Worst case scenario, we are not able to retain the person, but my hope is that even if that were to happen, and believe me, we're gonna work to make sure it doesn't, but even if that were to happen, they will have built enough up information and relationships and all that we can continue the good work, even if we don't necessarily have somebody full-time. But one of the things that we're gonna do hard is go after an additional grant to keep this going.
Okay. That's good to know, yeah, okay, great. All right, so now, under old business, we have to discuss committees and assignments.
The reason that's still on there, I know, even though that came up last time and we did get assigned different individuals, I didn't know if you wanted to talk at all about whether you wanted to put other people on the committee. I mean, there was still a few questions that had come up at the last meeting. But that can, if you all are pretty set knowing who you want, or that, you know, the heads of committees are gonna talk to other people, I mean, you don't have to even really address that if you don't want to.
Is there any discussion? Does anybody want to talk about it? Everybody's okay with
Is
it?
everyone assigned to something?
I'm assuming so.
Okay.
Is anyone not assigned to something?
Yeah.
Double checking. I think I am. I think I was on buildings. and-
You're on buildings and grounds, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just double checking.
okay. All right, so if everybody's okay, then we'll move on. All right, so now we're gonna go and do new business. So we have, the first order of new business is to discuss a new strategic plan for the library. And I'm gonna read you something that Allison wrote when she sent me today, some information. She said, goal is to determine if we want to begin the entire strategic planning process over or adjust the current strategic plan and extend for additional time. We need to have a working strategic plan in place to set goals. It's up to us to determine how much of a refresh, meaning up to a totally new plan, we would like to undertake. So that's what Allison's put out there. What are everybody's thoughts on the strategic plan?
Well, I think we had talked about it a little bit before, not much, but Blair had pointed out that because of COVID, a lot of things got put on hold, and so they're still moving forward to that. Maybe, and this is just a suggestion, we could look at maybe a 2-year extension or whatever Blair would recommend on this one while we work on the next full strategic plan or something like that.
I agree with that. I think that the majority of what we were trying to do on this was kind of cut off about midway through when we were really starting to make progress. And I think moving to a new strategic plan would be, you know, reinventing the wheel for something that we hadn't finished the axle with. You know, so.
But keep in mind, we really did already postpone reviewing this until at least this year because of those reasons. Okay, we did that last year. And so, and I agree with you, there's probably still plenty of this that's in action and has not been completed. But I'd be reluctant just to continue to go as is without looking at where we are. Because some things we probably know already we're not going to be able to do for a variety, maybe just because of COVID and how we live life differently after COVID. Maybe some things we know we probably want to do differently, and especially since we're going to have a social worker with us. I really do think there needs to be a group that maybe goes through and cleans it up. I'm not saying a full-blown one like they did in, 2018?
I think we can have this as a basis and then, you know, like not completely get rid of it.
Right.
Maybe like refine some things. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was saying.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, extend this one so that they can complete the things on here for whatever recommended time that Blair might say, a year, year and a half, 2 years, while we work on the next
On the next
full
page.
plan.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I think it would be, you know, with your permission, of course, but I think it would be appropriate for us to sort of, to maybe tweak or even just do I hesitate, but maybe call it a midpoint. I mean, certainly we wouldn't have been doing a midpoint had this not been interrupted by COVID. We'd be done and would have already discussed another plan towards the end of 2020 with the intent of having something in place for 2021. Couldn't really do that. So maybe a combination of assessing where we are at this point, sort of a midpoint on this one. I can get staff input on that if you like, with the goal then of saying, okay, as we begin to develop a new plan, what are some things that we really continue to need to work on, or this was such a good idea, we wanna keep it going, and then maybe where do we have some new priorities? And I would suggest, rather honestly, after having talked to a number of other directors in the state and how they intend to do things, I would suggest a much more abbreviated plan and really reassess it annually, honestly. A 2-year plan, big pie-in-the-sky ideas is great on paper, but as we know, as we've seen, a lot of things can change very quickly. I mean, Lord willing, we will not be dealing with another major pandemic or anything anytime real soon. But it might be more appropriate just to keep it nimble and keep it down to maybe 2 pages or something like that, that we can really work from. And then we understand it better, the staff understands it better, the public understands it better. That would be my suggestion.
Isn't the strategic plan supposed to be like the vision for the future? So I think it's good to have like a bigger goal ahead and then work in smaller
If you wanted to have a
projects.
section that you might call aspirational, I suppose that would be fine. But I just worry about that we're gonna get in a cycle of where we nail all this down and then say, okay, in 2 years we failed. Well, I mean, we could say we failed in this, but we can't blame everything on COVID, I guess. But
Exactly.
we really, some of these things I mean, as I'm sitting here looking through the 1-page part of it, just the major bullet points before you then go into the other explanatory stuff or whatever, but even as I just sit here and look at the 1-pager, there is a lot of this, oh goodness, sorry, I apologize. My wife disappeared on me. Anyway, the things that I see on here that we may have already done even, and then there's probably some things that we either got started on and then because we didn't have as much public facing with COVID and that kind of thing, we got stopped on or never got to. But I agree that there needs to be maybe a section of long-term goals or aspirational, but it might still be better to keep this to where we're not just doing a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan and then really laying it out there.
But shouldn't you review strategic plans every year anyway, regardless of the length? So if we did a 3-4 year strategic plan, like a traditional strategic plan, I think it's our responsibility to go back and review that every year anyway. Because things do change, circumstances do change and things arise. But that's just kind of our responsibility, I think, is to review whatever we put in place.
Yeah, 'cause just like you mentioned, the important part, even whether we revise this, rewrite this, or whatever, we need to know where we're at with these goals.
Right.
Otherwise, you don't know where to start chopping up.
Right.
So I think the most important thing at this point is to get the kind of data of where we're at with these types of goals that have already been in place, and then from there change what those goals are, how long we want to project them, what we want to do. I thought the 2 years was nice. When I first saw that there was a 2-year strategic plan, I thought that was nice based off what we would work on 5, 10 years,
Yeah.
whatever, the projections. I agree, those are very difficult, especially when COVID happened. But a year could also be fine, but I liked the 2-year.
I like the 2 year too.
Do you think it would be wise to ask the staff and the folks that are, in the building every day to take a look at this and kind of give us an evaluation of where they think we are and what they think, what they think of the plan?
Did we
think-
do
yeah.
that at some point, though? I thought we've talked about that.
We did do a sort of a shallow dive, if you will,
Okay.
into this, I think sometime back, maybe even last year, because we were already talking about what to do with it, because we knew it had expired, and COVID had interrupted so many things. So we did sort of do a short
Yeah.
review of what we've done. I mean, it might be more appropriate, and I'm hesitant to create more work for my staff, but it might be appropriate if what we do, if we go through this slightly deeper, not so much, plan by plan, point by point, what did we do, what did we not do? But maybe just go through this and be able to recommend to the board some places where we know we still need to work on these things, other places where we feel like that's just an ongoing goal, so it's never gonna be done. And then places where we think we've accomplished that and would like to see maybe some new things, some new aspirational things. I think, honestly, you could say that our social worker fits in with a couple of these things.
Oh, yeah.
There's definitely goals on here that are, it either happened or it didn't. Like,
Right.
were these bi-weekly things set up? Was this program done? I mean, and you're right, there are some things that are connect with community organizations. I mean, that's a never-ending type of thing. So at least if we can get some, just the check off, a little bit deeper dive of this happened, this didn't happen, as far as those things that are very acute and can be checked off that way, I think that would be very beneficial as we go to either revise this or work on something different.
Why don't we have a motion maybe to see if the branch managers could look at this and essentially just each one of them, just a short little paragraph or page that just says, this is, based on looking at this and the reality of the situation on the ground, this is what we feel about the strategic vision and where we are, so that, we can essentially tweak it, reevaluate it in preparation for drawing a new one maybe in a year or so.
And maybe even more specific, and a little less cumbersome than even having to write something, literally. I'd like a check off, like, done,
Yeah, like,
Done.
did you establish?
not
training
done.
At least for those that are very easy to
Yeah.
do. And then maybe something a little bit longer.
Yeah. No longer relevant, that kind of things, because these bullets are very concise. And so if they literally could look at the bullets and just check stuff off, things that weren't done, things that no longer need to be done, that would give us a really good start
And if
point.
they feel like something needs an explanation.
And that doesn't take a lot of their time.
Yeah, I think that's.
And I don't even think you really need a motion for that. That can just be a request to staff. We can take care of that. I mean,
Well, and do we need to have a board
I
of
was
two?
gonna say, I really would like to be at that meeting.
I
just
think we need
because
to
I
have
think we need to
some
communicate,
board
yes.
representation there
Yeah.
as a subcommittee, ad hoc as it may be, but
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I'm talking even before that, like.
No, I'm talking
talking when
about
they're
being
going through it,
I
so
want
I
to sit with
understand
them,
it.
with the staff, and go over this with them.
Yeah.
I would like to do that.
Okay, well, I think personnel, our little committee should be involved in some way too.
Okay,
because-
well, sure, okay, yeah.
I just have to keep
that
it
sounds
under a
good.
quorum.
Yeah.
That's all I have, that's all I can ask, is just that it can be some subset of all of you, but otherwise that's a meeting, unless now, if you wanna do something like that at a meeting, but I don't know that you necessarily wanna have staff trying to be on record and say.
Yeah, because I would just envision me, if I'm the staff member, sitting down with this thing and saying, hold training at regular intervals instead of just blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we do that now. Like, not even having a discussion with a board member, just literally, what have we done? That's all I'm talking about.
How was this, with the development, what was the relationship between the board and staff when this was developed? Like,
Well, now,
were
as
there
far as the
multiple
full
meetings?
development of this thing, the staff came up, I mean, I can give you the breakdown, I mean, it's right there on the thing. Pretty much the board initiated the thing, we hadn't had a strategic plan in quite a while. We did have 2 different focus group, community session kind of things that were moderated. And then, basically, once that had been done, we got some funding from the state library to pay our moderator. And then the library basically started formulating a plan to come up with how to do all of this, how to make the plan. Then we took what the public had given us as input, the staff and leadership, library leadership started putting all that together. We went through, we hung up all of those pieces of paper that we had done during the thing. And then we went through and basically said, how can we best meet this need, or how can we best answer this thing? And then those responses were presented at a second community planning meeting that was held later in 2018. And then they went through them and said, okay, is that something that's still, some of them were at the first meeting, and said, is that something that we still want to see? Or is that a priority, or could we tweak that, or whatever? Then we presented the plan in July of 2018, got additional input from the board, and then finally we brought it back to the board for final approval in September.
And see, I think that, because that's a traditional way to do a strategic plan, I think that needs to happen, because we need to hear from the community in involving any new strategic plan. But I think even before we sit in concert with staff members, we need them just to look at this at each branch and say what they have done, then maybe it's a sit-down once they do that. I don't think they need us looking over their shoulder to say, we've done it, we haven't done it. I don't think it's necessary anymore. Then we have a discussion. I think it's kind of a step-by-step process.
But as
But-
they're going through it, though, they could tell it, like, I still think we're all new enough. We don't have a clue even what some of the things they may be doing that are addressing it. And they may say, yeah, it's taken care of, and I'm not gonna know what that is until
That's what I'm
I
saying,
look.
so
When we do
the
the
step
follow-up,
two,
we find out what that is.
step two would be us asking those questions.
But we get the data in from them.
Right,
Yeah.
And then we can all individually look at it, and then we have our questions as representatives of the board. You know.
if it's something, yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
like,
understand.
why do you think
yeah.
this is not necessary anymore? A lot of you said it wasn't necessary anymore. I feel like it's very important. What's that look like for y'all?
Okay.
And then we can sit down in the meeting then and have that conversation,
Why not,
whoever the we is at the meeting.
Yeah.
why not what we do is maybe over the next, how long do you think it would take for them to just briefly go through this, make some markups and email it back
We
to
can
us?
have it, if you want it before then, but I mean, we can definitely have it available by the May meeting. I mean, if you want
That
to
seems reasonable.
go through this before that, you know.
Well, maybe we just ask them to go ahead and do that, and at the May meeting, we'll have a chance, maybe a little bit, maybe like a week before the May meeting, that would give us time to.
Look at it, yeah, before we get together. Mhm.
And then at the May meeting, we can say, okay, let's, have policy and personnel, or let's create an extra
Yeah.
committee to go and meet with these branch managers.
And ask
about-
questions,
and ask
right.
questions.
Yeah.
And maybe have like them give input on what they think it's missing also
Yeah.
at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, when they're writing, they can
What
write
do we need to
whatever,
add?
yeah.
And
Yeah, just have them write on it and
Yeah,
email it over to you, Blair, and then email it out to us, and that way we can.
So really,
evaluate it.
did it happen, did it not happen? If it needs a comment, give a comment.
Right.
If it's something relevant or irrelevant, and what would you like to see?
Yeah.
Like very briefly.
Do we need a motion for that?
That's, that you can simply, that's, instruction to me as staff liaison to, ask the staff to do, knowing that you need that to prepare the next step. You don't really need a motion.
Because I think each branch manager is gonna have their own time frame when they can, so they gotta do that on their own schedule and work it into their daily routine. So rather than being formalized with saying, okay, well, you're gonna have a board member here on Tuesday at 3:00, so this is what you have to do. I think it'll just be a lot
Yeah.
smoother if we do
It'll be a
it.
lot more laid back, and I think
Right.
it'll be more honest. because,
Right,
that they'll.
And then with that feedback, then whatever group meets with them can meet with them and have a
Right.
conversation.
Okay.
Is everybody?
Is there-
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. We're addressing it. That's awesome.
Ma'am, sounds terrific.
All right, so we'll move on then. Is that good? Is everybody okay with how we resolve that? Okay. Next, we have a discussion of building maintenance and parking issues. And again, I'm going to defer to you, Blair.
And really, I covered some of that in the director's report, so it's just brief. We are gonna get the parking lot striped at Seneca, weather permitting, on Good Friday, April 15th. I think that's April 15th? Yes. Anyway, we are closed for in-service that day, so they will be we'll do, as I mentioned in my report, we'll do how we have been doing in-services here lately, now that we're able to kind of be in one room again together. We will all meet at Walhalla for the morning portion of the meeting, and then we will go back to our branches in the afternoon, and that way we can work on some things that might be noisy, dusty, things that we couldn't do when we're normally open to the public. So we will use that time to get some projects done, allow each individual branch to have a staff meeting if they want to do that, and that kind of thing. We'll be able to do that on the latter half of the day.
and Blair, also, as far as parking concerns, I won't call it an issue, with the storybook trail that's being created at the Seneca branch, the city is going to be routing traffic to the other area, the open space area, and so that the current parking lot is not encumbered. So it'll be like two
Primary
separate.
spot for that.
Right. So we've been very adamant about that not happening.
Yeah, that was a concern of ours, as they're building the new Monarch Park there in Seneca, right behind the library.
Not Monarch Park.
Oh, it's not Monarch Park?
Storybook
anymore?
Trail Park doesn't have a name yet. Yeah.
Well, Well, it replaces Monarch Park, I guess would be a way to say it, but.
It's a new one.
The new park that they're
Yeah.
building behind the Seneca Library, one of the concerns that we had obviously is because it'll be co-located with the library. We only have a limited number, I believe it's 32 spaces in that parking area, and now as we are emerging from COVID and we're busier, she had 23, 28, something, some pretty nice number for story time in Seneca just last week.
Wow.
So we don't want to necessarily have all the spaces taken up that would normally be for our users taken up with the park. So if they're able to, if they're looking seriously at having the main access for that be over there on the other side, that's.
Right.
that'd be perfect.
And that'll also give you extra parking for the library as well, because once it's parking, it's parking.
Right.
Mhm.
And then, again, mentioned that the Westview Street, that had just come up. I don't need, when I made this agenda, I'm not even sure I had that in mind yet. But that is going to hopefully happen soon, because once they've made their decision, SCDOT's made the decision, really it's just getting out there and striping the spaces. I mean, and making signage for the road and all that sort of thing. I mean, there's, I'm sure a lot more to it, but it's a lot less involved, let's say, than cutting into a curb and putting in gravel and grading and doing all the things we would have had to do for our lot. So I was happy to hear that that's still in progress, that hasn't fallen off his radar. I know they've been super busy with all sorts of road projects and things, and as we emerge and get into the spring, I mean, I'm sure all of you have felt the potholes on the road. So, you know, I know they're busy, but it is nice to know that plan is still in place. And really, that's about all I had for that. I mean, obviously, we could use new buildings, but I mean, that's a lot bigger discussion than what we're gonna have here, so.
So I don't know if that
that's down the road.
segues.
Our facilities are in pretty good shape. We really do have, Salem has had a lot of improvements with the new carpet and we are still working on trying to get a new surface for the top of the desk at our Salem branch. Of course, we have a new desk at Salem, or rather at Seneca, a new desk at Walhalla. I mean, they're older buildings and they have the problems that come with older buildings, and the county did go through and do new lighting upgrades to all the buildings, and including some lights on sensors and thermostat upgrades a while back, of course, and we're still kind of dealing with, and especially as we move from winter into spring and then into summer, we'll see how all that works with the temperature adjustments and that kind of thing, but otherwise, we're in pretty good shape.
So does this segue to the third new business discussion of Seneca Branch Allies?
I'm not really sure on that, because I want to say Allison was the one who asked me to put that on the agenda, and I'm not.
I'll just read what she wrote here. She has
Okay.
Seneca Branch Allies, introduction of the discussion we had concerning building allies from the community who can help support the development of a needs assessment, especially for the building in Seneca.
Okay. And that, I'll be honest with you, that's about all I know
Okay.
on it too. I know that she had sort of put an emphasis on revisiting and trying to get some people involved in getting us a new Seneca library, because that, again, one of our smaller branches in a more populous area, the building is from 1968, it definitely has its issues. So I think the idea is to get out and start trying to build support for that again.
Okay.
And try to find some community and, political maybe even, I don't know exactly what's on our mind, but partners that are interested in helping us with this.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's good timing because, I mean, we still have, the state has all these extra funds from the American Rescue. Depending on what the revitalization Seneca's doing, they might be able to get some historic remodeling improvement grants and things like that. So that, I'd love to be able to help with anything like that. I feel very passionate and strong about that, so, and I know you know that.
And I think that has to come from the county, because that's county property,
No,
not city
it is.
property, so, yeah.
But I think the resources, financial resources out there are gonna come from fundraising in that city, because they're gonna benefit from it. I can't imagine someone in Mountain Rest wants to pay for my Seneca library to be improved. You
No,
know
I
what
understand what you're
Right.
saying, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying it has to be initiated through the county,
Right.
because,
Right.
Right,
yeah.
and it's an election year, so
Well, of course, if you go
Yeah.
back to even the attempt that we made to be involved in the 1 cent sales tax back in 2014,
Right,
certainly we want allies for Seneca Library, but we want other entities, other municipalities to understand this is not just about Seneca.
right.
Our overall plan had always been to renovate and make new spaces in the Walhalla Library. It's pretty landlocked, you can't add anything to it or build a new building there because of where it sits in the old railroad right-of-way. But if we were to get a new Seneca library where maybe we could even make that the headquarters library, then we had foreseen extensive renovations and making a lot more patron space, including maybe some lab space and other things we'd really love to have at our Walhalla branch. The county bought property years ago for an expansion in Westminster that's never happened. And then at some point in time, although the city or the town in Salem has been very great tenants, we wouldn't mind having our own standalone branch up there at some point in the future. So it wasn't just about Seneca, but I think the initial, again, Seneca has been the biggest need for a number of years, and I think that's why she's sort of really looking at building these allies in Seneca first. But we never had intended to only just do Seneca and leave everybody else alone. And I think if that is continued to be the message, then I think that kind of helps a lot because, you know, you, like you said, if someone lives in Walhalla, they don't care anything about the Seneca Library, they want to know what are you gonna do with the Walhalla Library. If somebody lives in Westminster, they don't care anything about the Seneca Library, they want to know what are you gonna do to the Westminster Library. So unfortunately, because it needs to be a package deal, sometimes it does, you start talking more money. Because we need a new branch in Seneca, there's no reason in putting any more, to pardon the phrase, lipstick on that pig. Love our Seneca Library, but it's a 1968 utilitarian, small 9,000 square foot building. It doesn't meet the needs of the populace in Seneca and the county as a whole. It just doesn't. So, but it was always our intention to make it a system-wide upgrade. Sure, there would be phases, Seneca would probably be first, but it was always intended to be a system-wide upgrade of all facilities.
Kind of like the schools do. It rotates.
Correct, correct. Just like right now, they're building a new middle school. There'll be other renovations of other schools and that kind of thing. And from time to time, they do whatever they do, bond it out or whatever, but, a little different story for us, I think, but, because we're not public schools, but nonetheless, that's the plan,
Public.
though, is basically to approach it in a phased approach, but to try to get something for each of the municipalities, because frankly, they all have the needs. I mean, our buildings in Walhalla and Westminster are circa 1979. They don't have the power, they don't have, I mean, we've done a lot of retrofitting to those buildings, but still, you're talking about the same breaker boxes, the same plumbing, the same everything else that they had in 1979.
So maybe step one is to have conversations with our county council members to ask about what is possible moving forward, like, you know, what avenues needs to be pursued. Because again, it has to be initiated from the county because that's county property.
Right, we are a county library system, that's correct.
All right, so I think we're ready to go into executive session. We can make a motion.
Okay, need a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second,
The second was
Shelby.
Shelby?
Any opposed?
Okay, so I make a motion, we come back from executive session?
Second.
Yeah?
Yep.
Any other questions or concerns for tonight's meeting? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Nice. I like the use of the gavel.
Thank y'all.